Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's session, Collaboration Using Padlet. I hope you've had a great day so far. Just wanted to get you all ready because it's going to get even better. This month's PD theme is collaboration, global collaborator. We like to align with the ISTE themes. So we have someone from Padlet, the one and only Jonathan Richards, who will share some strategies, some tips of how we can collaborate using Padlet. Now, thank you for all of you that typed in the chat. The question here I have, what do you look for in a teammate? And I ask this question because one skill or one trait that I find highly important when working in a team is adaptability. I see that when some team members are working with a specific tool or have a specific strategy or goal, and the others just have that closed mindset that don't want to use tech, for instance, with working with peers, that's going to make it very hard to reach your objectives as a team, right? And COVID made us use tech pretty much by force, right? But now that we have the option of using other tools besides tech, is when this is more of a challenge where we're okay. We are on the tech, uh, you know, path, and then others decide to go back to the old ways. So we want to get everyone on board, and by showing you different tools and how easy it is and how effective these tools can make your PLC collaboration meetings work better. So I don't want to take too much of Jonathan's time, but I do have some housekeeping items before we begin. We are pretty much all familiar with the Teams environment. You can use the chat, or you can raise your hand if you have any questions for our presenter or have any comments. You can keep your camera off. That's totally fine. But I do kindly ask you that you keep your microphones off just to keep all that background noise from our presentation here. There's no need to complete a form for attendance. I will get that from our Microsoft Teams report. However, I do appreciate all your valuable feedback, and I will provide a link for a survey at the end of today's presentation. So be on the lookout for that at the end. And here, without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Jonathan. Thank you so much for being here with us, and take it away.
Fantastic. So thanks for the introduction. It's actually nice to speak to some neighbors here in California. I'm in San Francisco, so just a hop, skip, and a jump away. You guys probably know this, but Modesto gets its name from a rail company owner back in the 1800s. They wanted to name the town after him. He was too modest to accept. So tongue in cheek, they named it Modesto. Anyway, I'm Jonathan here from Padlet. One of our company mottos, just on the topic that we started with today, is Festina Lente, which is another tongue-in-cheek expression. It means to make haste slowly. We use a lot of different technologies, even here at Padlet, to increase our productivity, our collaborative efforts. We do have an office in Singapore, so regularly corresponding with half of the team, literally on the other time zone, is something that can be tricky. And so technology is something that helps us accomplish it. And we are never shy to try something new to see if it meets our needs. If it does, we keep using it. If it doesn't, we made haste, and so we can back away. But Festina Lente. Anyway, I'm not sure what the degree of proficiency is with Padlet, so I'm going to start a little high level and we'll get into some things. I'm always happy to be interrupted, so if you have questions, just want clarity on something, feel free to unmute yourself. You are not going to throw me off my train of thought. I am not a shy person. Just to start with a screen share here, what is a Padlet? Put our faces away because we know what we look like. This is a Padlet. I'm sure you probably have seen this in some iteration before, but at its simplest, Padlet is a collaborative web space where people can introduce ideas and materials to each other and then solicit feedback. The materials themselves are incredibly flexible. We support over 100 different file types. So even on this page, you'll see web sourced media, you'll see MP3s, GIFs, YouTube videos, Spotify playlists. I would be interested to know if you ever come across a file type which we don't support. I've even used Padlet or seen Padlet used for virtual reality we call it playback. So it'll support what are they called? VLRX script, which I think is very cool. Within a Padlet itself, you have these individual posts. Post is three things. It's a title, it is an attachment, that's probably what we're most well known for, and then it's down here a little body, so a little bit of description about it. But there is a degree of customizable interactivity as well. So on this particular Padlet of books that we have, you'll see that you can enable reactions, you can enable comments. So these can become very fleshed out spaces where people can actually digest these materials in a collaborative nature. The format of a Padlet is also very flexible. So this particular format, I'll go into detail a little bit later on, this is called the wall format, and it's great for throwing things up there, having things ergonomically arranged. You don't really need to worry about organizing these. You can just toss posts to this and it will handle keeping things neat. But there are other formats that you may avail yourself to. This is the grid format, demonstrating another use case. Grid just keeps things arranged in square rows. Well, actually not square, it's what do you call them? Horizontal rows. It doesn't really care about the ergonomics. It's not going to adjust the position of these based on the size, but it has them up there in a neat way. So when you're doing something like collecting feedback from the world on what the best burger fast food chain is, this is a handy way just to keep things neat. 4 posts and you have another row. This is also a great way to have individuals own a space in a regular collaboration board. So here we have a photo project. Each individual has an assigned column, and here they're able to upload their posts one by one. This keeps these organizations neat. You can very clearly see who the contributors are. And if you're doing things like reactions and grades, it's very easy to get a sum total of those at the bottom. Another array of this is this horizontal view. We call this a timeline. This is great for building things like daily class schedules, right? I can simply move to the right to see things. But something that I also want to show is that you can view these same posts either using an expanded view, which highlights the media, shows any comments and discussion over here, and enables you to use these arrow keys to move along. Something we released somewhat recently, which you may not yet be aware of, though, is this slideshow view, which uses AI to generate a slideshow off of the media that I already have uploaded. I am a big Google Slides user. I've been using it for quite a while. I have fully transitioned this as a way to create my presentations both internally and externally. Clicking this button, it is very, very quick, has actually made a slideshow off of that. I know at first it takes a moment to appreciate, but the dominant color on the thing is what the dominant color on the background here. This really is a computer saying, okay, this is the way that this ought to look. And so I built in this case, 12 slide deck really with the push of a button. I did not need to organize these other than putting the posts themselves up here on this page. Huge time saver. Another favorite way that I like to use Padlet is with the map format. So here we have a collection of posts for this mock class field trip. You can see that we've drawn connections so we can roughly get a feeling for what it would take to get from London to, I believe we destined here in Venice. These individual pins are still fully fledged Padlet posts. You can see them in order here as well, so I can open it up. There is that same degree of interactivity where we can elicit that collaborative intent. And again, you can even slideshow these so that you can follow along with those media presented in a more PowerPoint style presentation. All of these things together are individual Padlets, but my favorite way to actually organize these materials is a concept we call a central wall. So each of these that I've shown you so far is found on this page here. This is an example of a bulletin board. Very, very easy to build. You've got all of the materials you might need for your school, your class, your breakout group. And here we have Padlets designed by intent. So we have collaborative Padlets, Padlets designed to have the students do the creation, things just to keep you organized and what have you. And within this page, note that the individually linked Padlets that we've already seen, here's our fast food Padlet, are fully openable. Like a nesting doll situation, you can have these things go as many layers deep as you need to. So this forms a very neat index page. I'm of the personal aesthetic opinion of creating fewer, higher quality Padlets with the intention that when I make a space like this, while the individual materials may change over the course of a semester or a year, the link up here or the QR code with which I use to share this is going to remain static. This is going to be the one-stop shop for people to find my materials over a long period of time. Again, the individual posts may change or update in their own right as we celebrate birthdays and special events, but you'll access it from this exact same collection of materials. So, all that to say, how do you actually get to creating a space like this? What you folks are using is a product we call District Platinum. You don't need to know that, other than what we are doing is as someone registers for a Padlet account with a Monet K-12 CAUS email, they're just automatically upgraded. Students or teachers, everyone in your district has access to this, and there's no reason not to simply take advantage. Once they are registered and they click through, what they'll have is this dashboard. This dashboard is a unique view for each user. It's a collection of things that you maybe have created, but also things that have been shared with you. I don't think this particular dashboard I have access to has anything on here that's not created by me. But if I were to take a Padlet and give it to someone, they would have access to it here on their dashboard. They may be able to search. Let's see if Tosh has shared anything with me on this dashboard. Yeah, he has. So there we go. I can actually find this and I can access it. It lives here. These spaces can become cluttered, especially as you create as many Padlets as I do. So it would be wise to avail yourself better than I do of these bookmarks. Very simple to create. Nice way to just create a space where these materials will live. Adding something or removing something from a bookmark, again, I don't actually think I have anything here now, I'm not making good use of them, is this vertical ellipses. Google calls this the hamburger button. Simply select it. You can edit the bookmark, adding it to another or what have you. From your dashboard at the top right-hand corner is a large pink Make a Padlet button. This will show you the formats that are available. Now, there are 7 to choose from. You don't need to worry too much upfront which you'll choose because it's very easy to change format with the click of a button later. I'll show you how this is done. Sections are something that we have recently released. They may be new to you if you're an older Padlet user. All it is a way to add sections within the existing format. So you can subdivide a timeline, for example. So instead of having just a single horizontal line, you might have several on top of each other. It's a more granular way to organize that presentation within your Padlet. But to start with, I'm going to use the stock standard version, that wall format I referred to before. This is typically where what I use as a starting point so that I don't need to think about organization until I have some materials on the page. So I'm going to click out of this real quick just to show you that all of these organization options for the Padlet itself are found under this button right here. To start with, I'm going to just quickly customize this. So today I'm going to put together a list of favorite books for 13, what we're reading. You'll see that all of this is updating on the top left-hand corner, but it is also changing the URL of this page. You can further customize this as needed. Something to note, the URL is a permanent link. So if I later decide, well, I got the date wrong, it's actually 4/14, yeah, the URL will update, but this, which we call the permalink, will remain the same. A relatively new release we've made, so you will not break your hyperlinks by updating these Padlets. They'll be re-accessed even from the old 4.13 version of this hyperlink ad nauseum. Really, really great. You can work out of the same space for a long period of time without affecting user access, unless you choose to remove access. Again, something we'll cover. With the theme of creating higher quality Padlets, I do like to point out that we have access to icons. Now, there's pre-populated emojis and things like that. You can also draw your own, upload your own, or for the lazy among us, myself included, just search for an image off the web. I'm going to look for a library. I realize I misspelled that. The irony is not lost. There we have it. Now, this is the icon that associates with the Padlet, but it is also, if this would refresh kindly, what we would call the favicon of the page. So this is what would associate with this if I were to embed it in, oh goodness, WordPress. If I were to save a copy of this link to my school-issued Chromebook device or a cell phone, this will associate with this. So it's a great way to, again, help make this particular space recognizable for a core group of users over a long period of time. We should also take a quick moment just to customize the wallpaper. Nice thing about the wallpaper selection is that it will, the version I'm using won't do it. As of Tuesday, it will also update the color scheme, which is a nice sort of VPAT improvement. So you won't have these dominant color mismatches. Also just helps the aesthetic look of the page. Again, I forgot to enable it right before this call, but it will be released to you folks for beta users as of next Tuesday. But for now, let's just take a look at the wallpapers, the solid colors, gradients, all that. I'm just going to find a picture here of some books. Terrific. So we've got a basic working space right here. Let's take a quick look at those posting options. We'll breeze through this because, again, I'm sure it's familiar to most of you. You can double click, you can use the plus icon. This is what we call the post modal. As a force of habit at Padlet, when you see something like this ellipses right here, go ahead and click on it. This will always open some additional things that we just have collapsed under a submenu, but they are incredibly useful. We try to make this intuitive. We try to make the design neat, but these options I think are essential. These are the all of the different attachment options that you have access to. So you've already seen the ability to link to another Padlet. You can use this to find a file off of your computer if you are smart enough to have one handy. Here we have just a picture of the well, a library in this case. Obviously, there aren't really pictures of the Library of Alexandria. You have access to video recorders, audio recorders for the bashful. You can screen record, maybe if a student's having a technical issue, or if you're just having them demonstrate a concept, a technical tool that they're using, or a trusted colleague doing the same. There is a drawing capability. I'm not a Michelangelo, but maybe someone else might be. Goodness gracious, there we go. We have AI art generation. This probably was specifically built with myself in mind. Nice thing about these, computers cannot hold copyrights. So anything that is generated here is free use. You're welcome to take advantage of this. You're welcome to use this in your own publications. I do like that AI is getting better at drawing hands. If you know AI, you'll know that that's funny. Maybe you won't think it's funny. But that exists as well. And then those most well-known options down here for web-sourced media is found. And these are sourced primarily from Google. So the question I often get is copyright. The answer is if you are allowed to use it, you are allowed to use it. There we have it. So that was a simple way to push some material out. I want us to put together a short list of some of our favorite books. And to get us started, I'm going to put one up here that I think a lot of us have read, at least as children. Let's find one that is actually the book. I am not having luck today. We'll just use this because at least it is written media. There we have the attachment loading. I've added a title, down here a body. Read this when I was young. Very simple way to get this out there. I can accomplish the same thing using the File Explorer for media on my computer by using a simple click and drag. This works exactly the way you'd expect. Click, drag, release. You'll see down here I've got simultaneous posts uploading. I don't need to do it one by one. I can edit them as they're loading. I don't need to wait. And I can publish them all at once or one by one, whatever I happen to be doing. So note right here that in addition to these images on the right side of the screen, a couple of things found on the internet, AI generated art, smiley face. We also have a fully embedded MP3 of The Snow Queen. This is the Hans Christian Andersen play that the movie Frozen is based on, and a PDF of The Great Gatsby. Both of these are in public domain, so again, I am allowed to actually share these with you. Fantastic. We've got some posts up here. How do I actually get others to contribute to this space? I'm going to share with you folks in the Zoom chat and with a QR code, so if you prefer to do it that way, a URL here, and then a QR code here. So if you've been to a restaurant in the last 3 or 4 years, you know how this works. Scan this with your phone, you'll be able to access this space. And if you'd be so good as to throw up a book, something you've read, something you're reading, don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. It will help elucidate my next point. And I'll keep this QR code up for, say, 10 seconds or so, just so everyone has a fair chance. All righty. So I'm going to close the QR code. Just give a holler if you need access to it. What we will see here at the top of the screen is some indicators of synchronous activity. Go ahead and finish your post. I'm just going to describe a little bit what that means. Up at the top, we see a profile picture, a colleague of yours, you may recognize them, and 3 aliens. Don't do anything different. This just helps show something that I do want to demonstrate. The alien heads are anonymous users. They're not logged into an account. And because they're anonymous and because we respect data privacy, we truly have no way to identify who those users are. This is fine. There are activities and purposes for anonymity, but if you're having an issue with anonymity, you'll want to restrict this to logged in users. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Terrific. We've got our first post, House on Mango Street. I don't believe I ever finished this, but it's on my reading list. I've got it from the library. I just put it aside. All right, so I'm going to open now the original menu that we started with to scroll down to some posting options here. 2 things that I like to enable, 3 things that I like to enable are authorship and timestamp. This is what tells us who has posted. And I want to note that this is a toggle. So in the off position, it doesn't display. In the on position, it does display. But when available, the information is always being recorded. So my general recommendation when you're doing a class activity that behooves anonymity, have your students log in. Remember, they do have a school-provided account. There's no reason for them not to be using it, and it helps prevent those incidences of classroom misuse. Have them log in, but just turn off the names. You can turn this on later if you ever need to see it. This is the recommendation that I would make. I'm also going to go ahead at the same time, just turn on comments and reactions. Let's just use the simple like for now. So there we have it, some additional posts. Now, I promise to tell you why these anonymous users were able to post. The very top sidebar option here, this little arrow, are the privacy selections. Under the privacy options, you can see the combination of selections I've set here. Secret, with a visitor permission of can write, but this toggle off allows anonymity. I'm going to walk through these privacy selections one by one. Private is just that. A private Padlet can only be accessed by those users who you have specifically added here. This is easily done, and a great use case for this would be if you're working on a lesson plan or a quiz bank with a fellow teacher, and I really wanted to make sure that students didn't have access to this, keeping it private and then just adding a trusted colleague here by name. I'm going to add myself at a personal email. There we have it. Great way to get them into the account. Another use of this, though, is that while I'm adding this user to the account, I can also give them a one-off permissions setting, which overrides that of default guests to this page. So if I'm hosting a large presentation, a school event, I'm sharing access to like a school bulletin board with a few stakeholders that need equal edit permissions, but I don't want everyone to be able to edit. This is how you'd affect that. You can just add a handful of trusted users, giving them the necessary permission to operate on this wall. What they'll receive is an email invitation in just a couple of seconds here. but the rest of the users are still stuck on these privacy selections. Password protected Padlets work the way you'd expect. If the user has a password, they can get into the account. 99% of the time, the privacy selection that you will have been using and will continue using is this secret privacy selection. So the toggle I want to really hammer home here is this one. This will still allow the best balance between accessibility and privacy. When I give this QR code or the URL to you folks, you'll be able to open it, but you'll have to log into an account first. So you can say goodbye to these anonymous posts. In terms of some more granular ways to share this, you can use, I showed you the QR code is right here. You can also embed this. I understand you folks are using Schoology currently. Taking this top link to any resource page, or I'm blanking just now on what Schoology calls their courses or assignments, but like they just call them assignments. Embedding this there, just inserting this as a link, will embed this Padlet in iframe. It's a great way to get in there. The product that you're currently using does not have access to LTI, unfortunately. Though we're working on that for September. That will allow a true marriage of this into your LMS and will handle things like administrative functions, role provisioning, grade passback, things like that, all to be coming, not yet operative. If you're using it, likely not. There's also a built-in Google Classroom integration. This functions out of the box, very, very simply done. You can use this in tandem with anything else that you are using. So there we have it. A collection of our favorite books. Now, this particular format is the wall format. This is the one that handles ergonomic placement in an aesthetic sense. So it's trying to keep this neat, even though I'm sometimes making it difficult, rearranging things so that it will stay roughly square. If I use this ellipses here, I can change the format to any of the other 6 I'm not currently using. The stream format is a handy way to present things in a top to bottom view. I've seen this used a lot with media-centric Padlets because it does have sort of center focus on whatever that attachment is. But do note that anytime you do want to highlight the media, my preferred way to do it is to simply use the expanded view, click on the post, and then you've turned this in sort of a light slideshow using the arrow keys or this. My favorite presentation, again, is simply the slideshow. You can do this with any format. It will create this on your behalf. The next format we'll look at, what we've already seen is grid. Grid is very similar to wall, but instead of keeping things ergonomic, it's just going to create fresh rows every 4. Doesn't care if some posts are longer than the others. Nice, tidy, and neat. The map format we've seen, the timeline we've seen. So the next I really want to look at here is actually we're going to get back to this one here. Let's look at Canvas. Canvas is a favorite for the left-handed among us. If you're as old as I and actually did do those poster board science fair presentations, this works very similar to that. So you can arrange these things however you need on the page, including very far off screen. There's no limit to the size, either in terms of formatting or the number of posts you put on this. No limit to the size you can make a Padlet. There are some incredibly large Padlets out there. So Canvas is a great way to build these mind maps. I can maybe put these in order of, I don't know, classics. I'm going to put Lord of the Ring up here with the classics. Fight me on it. And then you can even draw connections between these posts to better highlight what those associations are. Those connections will follow the posts around. You can connect to multiple posts. It's a great way to draw these fun, interactive abilities, similar to what we saw with this student map. You can do the same thing here with these posts on this map view. Circling back to the one format I wanted to finish on here is wall with sections. So I mentioned that we've released sections. They're available on all of them. You may better know this format as shelf. That's what we used to call it. Today, it is essentially a wall with sections enabled. So you'll see that name starting to change in a couple of different places. This arranged things in vertical columns. You can have as many columns as you need. You can name them anything you like. We're going to go out all the way out here to section 27. And then moving things to relevant sections is as easy as click and dragging, or simply transferring the post to another section within the same Padlet. So again, there are large Padlets out there. There's functionality to help make sure that organization and reorganization stays very smooth. So using something like this, when we go from what was originally an unorganized cluster of materials, get the materials in there first, especially in a collaborative function like this, and then open up this view and think, how does it make sense to present these? Do I want to create associations of the books themselves? Do I want to think about the way that these are arranged? This is a bug that I'm aware of. I've done this so that I've lost my canvas orientations, although normally this would preserve. Or would it be better to have these arranged in sections? For materials like this, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But ultimately, what you'll get is something that looks like this. It's an organized space. You've got your Padlets arranged in the ways that you want them to be interpreted and viewed. And I do want to share this collection of Padlets with you as well. This is a curated list of Padlets we've sourced from the wild. We've sourced permission from these Padlet owners to share these with you. To highlight a couple of use cases that are in here, we've got a first grade Padlet, just a collection of materials that these, first period Padlet, that these folks will need for this teacher's class. She's utilizing that central wall concept very, very well. I don't think at the moment, no, in this particular iteration, she doesn't have any other Padlets embedded, but what she does have is her syllabi. So she's got PDFs in here. This is a one-stop shop for the materials you need to understand her class and the way she's going to be grading things on her rubric for the whole year forward. Another one I just want to highlight. I love this demonstration of a dinosaur timeline. This is in a read-only format. This is the teacher presenting on the different periods and some of the dominant life forms from those periods. I just think it's a great, visually fantastic way to see why the timeline is useful for things like this, in addition to things like an hourly schedule, an event planner, things like that. Scrolling down to some examples of student collaborative Padlets. My favorite really is this particular one. This will take a moment to load because it is quite large. This is I believe they're fifth graders doing a experiment with gummy bears. There's a prompt that's way off here to the right where they're expected to follow a certain rubric, perform the scientific method, upload those materials, and then each student is just given a column by their teacher. What you end up seeing here is these students taking advantage of the different posting options to perform the same experiment. There's a lot of text involved. A lot of these folks are just going through it one by one, but some of them are taking advantage of file uploading Google. Some of them are taking photos directly from their phones using the camera functionality. Some of them are actually video recording themselves going through the process. Their creative potential is being unlocked here, even as they're performing the exact same experiment. I think it's very cool. This is an exciting concept to me. Scrolling down a little bit more, do remember that your students do also have the ability to make Padlets. Their accounts are equally as upgraded as yours, and so you can expect them to do things like present their own creations to you. This is a great example of that. It's a collaborative civil rights group project. This was actually put together during COVID, so this was a distance learning experience. Each color is associated with a student that put this together. This is using that Canvas format. And you have this asynchronous experience being done from home learning, presented synchronously together in front of their classmates. Everyone was able to participate on this. It's very easily understood. At the bottom, they have a common works cited page. You can entrust your students with the ability to do this. They've got all of these same tools that you have access to. I think I spoke a little bit quicker than I intended, so we're ahead of schedule. A few things administrative that I'd like to talk about are related to, for example, Schoology LTI. We are working on a slight variation of the product that you're currently using. I can give you kind of a sneak peek of what that is. What it would enable you to do is actually have a collaborative team for your school. Currently, what you folks have are individual Padlet.com accounts. They're upgraded, but they exist in an unconnected format at Padlet.com. With something like a library, and I can chat with your administrator to see if this is something that you folks would be interested in doing. On the left-hand side here, you can see the different subgroups that I'm actually a part of. These may be breakout groups. These may be individual periods that you teach. But the core group of users that are within these spaces are defined. This one here for, I haven't actually changed the name, they're just auto-generated. For Stark Industries, for example, this is a real one that we use for work. These are all of my colleagues. They share this space with me. As I make Padlets, I can choose whether they see them or not, but everything is within this nested network in a more controlled experience than you currently have access to. And you might be a member, again, of several. So breaking out your individual classes, inviting some, a particular one here would be, where's our magic school bus? Inviting some additional administrators or teachers or students into this collaborative space. We're trialing it as of next week. So if this is something that's interesting to those present, ask your administrators to reach out. Very, very happy to talk about what it would look like to give you access to some of these features. Are there any questions?
I see that they're typing
I see this as well.
chat, so I'm just waiting for that to come in. But this would be a pretty great tool for collaboration, specifically for PLCs. You can have your own teams and have that collaborative space there automatically without having to worry about sharing each individual Padlet or putting it in, you know, that main hub where everyone is kind of like looking at other Padlets. One thing that I wanted to kind of see if you could show us, since I believe it's fairly new, is the ability to create advanced layouts where they each have their own sections. I think before we were able to have sections in the column layout, but now I think they incorporated them in all the different layouts, and this is great for collaborating in the same Padlet. You can create sections in different formats now, so timeline or canvas and all those stuff. So can you show us where we can create those advanced ones?
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
Padlet?
So I had briefly mentioned that what we had previously called shelf is now simply a wall with sections enabled. Sections are available for all of the templates currently, except for Map and Canvas. We're working on a way to subdivide those as well. But for the sort of core templates, grid, timeline, stream, and wall, sections can be found within your posting options. So scrolling here to the layout where you do things like change the post position and stuff like that, you can turn on sections. Enabling this simply turns this on the wall format into the shelf. But you can do the same thing on a grid. Again, grid will normally just have new rows every 4 posts, but you can create those sections, and it's actually translating here from the shelf right here. Within the sections, you can also sort how you want things to appear. So I don't think there's a lot of feedback currently on this, but I can change the arrangement of things in section based on a few different criteria, including votes and things like that. It is a great way to design a curriculum around feedback. Are these subjects that we're interested? Are these subjects that we're a little bit less interested in? Then there was also a question I saw about Clever app integration. Currently, we support OIDC SSO, which is your sort of standard OpenAuth 2.0 for Google and Microsoft. Clever is something that we're working on. There's a way that you can do it within Clever. Essentially, I think you folks are a Google authenticated school or district, that is. Simply embedding as an app in Clever a link to padlet.com/auth, you would be able to have your students just hit the Google button there, and that would pass them right through to their account. And then I want to highlight this one more time. So we built this, colleague of mine, Yasmin and I, we built this as an example of a bulletin board. Generally, when I finish producing a Padlet like this one, and let's pretend that I'm finished with it, discard these changes, let's put it back into the original, format, because I think this is clearer to see on this particular one. Once I put something like this together, what I would typically do is put it into context. So taking this Padlet to a bulletin like this, to something like a central wall, I can add it as a post right here. This particular Padlet that I built, I think I locked it previously, so the wall here is not going to show. Yeah, it is. Something I'll need to work on between these two accounts, but normally the wallpaper would appear right here. This is why I designed those smaller spaces. I build them. That's where the interactivity is coming. This is where people are introducing themselves and talking about their favorite activities and things like that. But where you give it structure is putting it in this wider space. This to me is the real potential of Padlet, where you can have that group of users collaborating on a variety of different topics and not get bogged down in just making a simple Padlet like this one, a reading list. While this is a great way to unlock collaboration, the bigger picture to me is what I find fascinating in this sort of work. So again, I am well caffeinated today and simply spoke faster than I intended. We're about 50 minutes, I think, ahead of schedule. If there's questions, this is a great time to ask them. If not, I don't want to keep people unnecessarily.
Yeah, no, I see there's some folks typing there. Yeah, I'm super excited about the grade passback specifically that you mentioned coming in September, I believe I remember. So that's something that we definitely be looking into and looking forward to. But yeah, thank you so much for all the useful information. Lots of great examples and use applications. I know we're just like so full of ideas and information that we need to kind of process at the moment. So if there are any questions that come in after today, I'll reach out to you in case we don't know the answers to those.
That would be
Other
great.
than that, I think all I'm need to do is just share here in the chat the EdTech feedback survey. You should all see it in the chat there. I just posted it. So take a few minutes to go through those questions, give us your feedback. And thank you, Jonathan, for being here with us presenting about Padlet. And if you're all good to go, you may leave the call and continue with your day.
The last thing I would offer, and no need to stay around, simply our contact form. I've just dropped it in there, but there is a lot of information that comes up front. Sometimes you'll find yourself creatively stuck. Getting you unstuck is one of the things that we are here for. So I think I've even chatted with your district several times already in a short face-to-face. If you're interested in spending 10 minutes on the phone with me, just working on something that you're trying to accomplish with Padlet, you're very welcome to do so. Use that contact form, just request a call. We'll send you a little link you can use to book it. Genuinely, we do it all the time. We're very, very happy to. Just a hidden sort of benefit of being able to get in touch with us. We are very, very happy to chat. I do encourage you to take advantage.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Well, folks, well, thank you so much for being here with us, learning about Padlet. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jonathan through that contact Padlet, or any of us in the EdTech team. We're also always happy to help you guys with Padlet or any of the EdTech tools you use in your classroom. So again, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time.
Cheers, folks. Lovely to make your acquaintance.
Thanks. Bye.